Welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. I'm your host, Junor Francis, alongside our good friend and producer, my good friend and producer, Eric Kohler. Now, this series celebrates and aims to preserve and promote the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scene in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversations with legends and modern-day talent, including those behind the scene. And there are many, many wonderful and amazing people working behind the scene to make this successful. Mr. Kohler.
Yes. This is a monumental episode and one that's been in the works for some time now. Today we welcome alumni from San Diego's The Donkey Show. This group had a very significant impact during a relatively short period of time, but their influence should not be understated or underrated. Welcome, gentlemen. This is truly a reunion of sorts, right? As I believe maybe some of you have not seen or been together in a number of years. So please know how thankful and appreciative Junor and I are. Why don't we first start with each of you just saying your name and what instrument you played, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, I'll start. I'm Matt, and I was the organist.
All right, Matt.
I also played a little harmonica, and once got away with singing.
That's true.
You play the melodica too.
Oh yeah, melodica.
All right. Next up.
Particular order.
David Hillyard. I played the saxophone.
Good to see you, David. All right. Next.
This is Creedy. I play guitar.
Nice meeting you,
Welcome, Creedy.
This is Kent. I was the drummer.
All right.
Well,
And
yes,
last
you
but not
were.
least, coming in via audio.
Rob.
Yeah,
Is Rob
my
still
name
there?
is Rob Dominguez, and I play percussion,
Oh,
timbales,
yeah.
and bongos, and congas.
Nice. Look at that talent. So we have so in essence we have 5 out of how many?
Nine. Nine.
5 to 9. Those are pretty good
Excellent.
pretty good ratio, right? So thanks guys again. We're gonna have some fun with this. As I mentioned, we've been wanting to do this for some time now. Matt, special thanks to you. So why don't we start, if we don't mind, by talking about what the Southern California scene was like, right, in the early to mid 80s. So maybe just prior to Donkey Show starting. I'm going to throw this out to all of you. You can fight on who kind of answers this, but we'd love to paint the picture or remind folks, right, what the scene was like back then. Who wants to take it?
Well, so as I remember it, sort of in San Diego, around sort of 1985-ish. In fact, that's when we first started rehearsing, was 1985. And there was a big scooter scene, and San Diego had this kind of like corduroy and suede 60s R&B garage rock thing that had been going since probably the late 70s. And we had mod bands like Manual Scan, but there was basically a big ska vacuum. And I think it was a period where people had sort of digested all the two-tone records and played them to death. And maybe people were kind of tired of ska for a while, but I kind of had the feeling that there was going to be a resurgence of interest in ska, maybe, 1986, 87. So that's what it was like to me. There were a couple of fledgling ska bands here and there, but for the most part, I think that it was a vacuum. Do you agree with that, Dave?
I do. It was you have to remember we're talking about back when we were like 15 years old.
Yeah, right.
So it just seems like yesterday. I remember it so well. There was like the big turning point for me personally is I saw the Beat play at the Del Mar Fair.
Oh wow!
That was 1982, I think, and I got really into ska. I was like 13 years old when I saw them, and 82 or 83, and so I saw them. I stayed into it, but it seemed like Matt was saying, that a lot of people had gotten out of it, and there wasn't much going on. San Diego, in case you were wondering, is not really known as a big music town. It's a little sleepy. People like to, sleep. They don't hang out late, So it's it was a little bit of getting any sort of band together. It took a bit of effort, you know. I think it was we
But
were all
on the
we were all
point about
exceptional.
not too many bands, I once read recently that per capita, San Diego has more reggae bands than anywhere in the United States.
Oh, really?
Really?
Now,
Yeah.
as a result of the birth of
I don't know how you measured that, but yeah.
Hey, you know,
Big
so I
Mountain,
do
Big
recall-
Mountain.
No, but yeah, sure, Big Mountain. I think that was the late '80s though, but it was like the there was a big beach reggae scene. You know, I
Right.
started
That's
listening to
what I was
reggae
gonna
because my dad was listening to reggae. My dad listened to like Jimmy Cliff and Peter Tosh and
I
Bob
definitely
Marley
agree.
and
I think
stuff.
there was more reggae sort of in the ether around San Diego.
Mhm.
You know, putting together a ska band, I think, was almost more for our own pleasure of just, you know, having
Yeah.
something to listen to, and to play at the same time. Right? It was I think it was a lot just for us, really.
Yeah, interesting. Anything else to add as far as what you remember from the early days as far as the overall scene?
Well,
No,
I mean,
I
we
was
used
gonna say, oh, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, 'cause
I was gonna go
back in the
say-
day, basically,
I'll let Rob in here.
Oh yeah, Rob.
What were you saying, Rob?
the Untouchables always playing San Diego.
Oh yeah, the
The
Untouchables.
original,
Yeah.
the original lineup.
Yeah, yeah. So how many of you saw the Untouchables pre Donkey Show?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I do.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember having to
I-
like drive up to North County to see them or something. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I
enjoyed
know
them a lot. They were great.
some of us used to go to the shows at Fender's Ballroom too
Well,
when they'd had,
yeah.
and so they'd have ska shows. So we would, you had to travel a little bit. I think I saw Fishbone a couple times too before we started Donkey Show.
Mhm.
Fishbone was playing around every so often.
Right. Right.
So you mentioned how about a band called Trousers? Is that the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have their album.
Yeah.
Hey, so
yeah,
they really existed. We weren't sure because research we couldn't find.
yeah.
So they okay.
Right. Some of our research showed that the Trousers might have been San Diego's first ska band. Is that do we think that's accurate?
Maybe there was also this group called NE1, like
Yeah,
letter
NE1.
Yeah, I remember anyone.
NE number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing. I did see them once. Yeah, and they were like, I don't know.
But they made an album, right?
Yeah, did they? I don't know. I don't have their album.
No, it's Trousers.
Trousers. Yeah, I have Trousers.
So
made
they
an
had to
album.
have been around for some time to make an album.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Yeah,
And I think they were kind of a mix of ska and reggae, and yeah, interesting band.
And what era again? What time period?
I don't remember, but it probably would have been like 82, 83.
Early.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Creedy, what you were going to say something?
No, I was just trying to figure out when they would have. I know they predated us, but trying to figure out where they fell on the timeline.
Yeah. Did anyone see the Box Boys who were around in the early 80s?
No,
I never did.
No,
I saw them when they were on Saturday Night Live. No, not the Box Boys. I thought the Bus Boys. Box Boys, I never saw them.
Okay. Okay. How about the Uptones in the early days from San Francisco area?
Oh.
Yep.
I never-
No.
Yeah. I don't know if they made it themselves. Yeah. So you touched on two-tone. For you guys, how big of an influence, Dave, you mentioned obviously seeing the beat, but how big of an influence was two-tone bands to you all and the formation of Donkey Show?
Huge. I mean, without Two-Tone, I wouldn't have known about ska. That was what pulled us all in, or most of us anyway, I think. And in the early days, right up to at least our first gig, we were playing some Specials and Madness covers, and yeah, I think it was. I know we used to play Gangsters. I think we rehearsed Message to You, Rudy. I don't know if we ever performed that. And we used to do Madness, which of course is a Prince Buster song, but
Sure, right.
So back then, you guys were exposed to any traditional Scatterlights, Wailers, Ska, not
But By the time
Yeah.
we formed, we were all familiar with that. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, we
What
used to
guys
play
came to us, yeah?
Reburial by the Scatolites was one of
Yeah.
the first 3 songs we learned.
Oh wow.
Hey,
What were the other two, Dave?
Madness and Gangsters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
so
That
it's a
was the first
combination of
first
traditional
3.
and two-tone.
Yeah.
Traditional
Yeah.
and two-tone. Nice, nice.
They had a large repertoire.
Do you
And we
remember?
couldn't play any of them all the way through.
Yeah. Well, that
Why?
was,
I'm curious. Why?
it's, we were at that point where when you're trying to form a band, and it took us a couple of years to get to this point. It's like you have to know about 10 songs to do a show. So when you do 10 songs, you can do a show. It took us like 2 years and several lineups to get to that point.
We were also in those real early formative years of us learning to play our instruments too. There was that hurdle, right? There was that challenge as well to try to learn how to play your instrument while
Right.
you're trying
Yeah.
to play these covers. So
Yeah.
I mean, very instrumental in us learning how songs are arranged, what sounds good, and then finally completing the song.
Right. Before we talk about how the band was formed, since Junior touched on some of the more traditional, did any of the legends pass through in the early, meaning Jamaican legends, pass through San Diego, or did you come up to LA to see any of them in the early to mid 80s?
Not so much. We saw them when we started playing out as
Okay.
Donkey Show.
Yep.
We ran into several, but before that,
I think Burning Spear came by,
Burning Spear.
and Muda Peruka came by.
Oh, and Muta. All right. Yeah.
Oh,
Nice. Yeah. I can
I
see.
think San Diego's geographically positioned in a unique way in that it's kind of a missed stop for tours, people on tours or bands on tours, right? You kind of almost have to go out of your way. You're gonna do LA and then drive all the way down to San Diego and then shoot over to Phoenix or something. I think it's just one of the towns that maybe wasn't a main stop back then for some bands.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know about you guys.
You also got to remember how young we were. There was like lots of reggae shows at the Belly Up Tavern,
Yeah.
but I couldn't go in because I wasn't 21.
Right. Sure.
But the first time we played there, like half the band, we had to stay
You had to
behind
stand
a
up
line.
high.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us go into the club until exactly when it was time to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I've experienced.
And I had that experience with several San Diego clubs when I was like 15, 16, 17. So it was like, we didn't necessarily have, unless they were going to play for free, or I saw UB40. I remember that,
Okay.
UB40 play, but it was like, it was just very limited opportunities if you were under 18 or if you were under 21 to actually see the music in clubs.
Right.
shout out to the Belly Up. They're still doing reggae.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's still
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a,
right. No, yeah, they're covering the whole genre.
Yeah.
Shout out Belly Up.
Belly Up strong.
Wow.
And we
Yeah.
we got to perform there ourselves many times, and there was a great. We opened for was it Bad Brains or was it just the guy?
HR.
Babylon Warriors.
Oh right, okay.
Hey, they're from LA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we opened for the Babylon Warriors, and then there is probably another one that might have been. I don't remember what the second one was, but yeah, once again, my memories of the Belly Up were being stuck in the back room or in the alley outside and going, "This
Go
sucks."
stand
I
in the
wanna go
corner,
inside."
Dave.
I love it. I love
Yes. So let me ask so that's a two-part question. One is the formation of the band, how, and the name Donkey Show. Of all the
Oh
names,
boy.
that's what they think.
I think Dave should tell us how the band was formed because he was really the original instigator, if I'm not mistaken.
Dave's to blame or thank.
Yeah, it took a long time. I think it was I met Rob. I was in a band called the Saints, and we played like 2 or 3 gigs. And at our last gig, this was like in 1985 or something, I think I met Rob at the Saints gig, and it was like, oh, he's into ska too. There's actually somebody, who's into it. And man, I think I'm trying to think. We must have met Matt through the mod scene. I'm assuming I ran into.
I think I saw an ad somewhere. I think
maybe I even put something in the San Diego Reader. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you posted in the Reader, and I like answered your ad or something.
The tried and
So you're like
musicians want.
Yeah, but I think so. But that got us up to like 3 people, or maybe 3 or 4, and we're still missing the rest of the band. But fortunately, Matt actually ended up being the big connection because a good chunk of the band went to high school together.
Okay.
And that Matt, Creedy, Kim, and Ray all went to the Performing Arts High School in San Diego. So
yeah, O'Farrell SCPA was a Performing Arts Magnet, School of Creative and Performing Arts.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, so I kind of recruited Creedy and Kim, and I originally recruited Kim to cover for me on keys when I was going to be in Europe, and they had a gig lined up. And then they ended up not playing that gig for some reason. And then Kim joined as a singer. And even though Ray had, I think Ray had actually already graduated from SCPA by then. Is that right, Creedy?
Yeah, I think Eric Bird, who was the original, or one of the original bass players, had met.
That's right.
Working at the Village Hat Shop or something like that.
Village Hat Shop.
I think Ray was wearing a Beat shirt, and that kind of sparked some conversation.
That's a big giveaway.
Yeah, right. And it was cool because then it was like, oh, we know this guy. We went to school with this guy, so that's fun.
So you all met, and Dave, the idea of the band came in 85 or
Yeah, but it wasn't really till 87 till we got it. And actually, I think in 87, the turning point is we got a real drummer.
No, that was 86. That was 86. Right?
86. Yeah, whenever you did, that was the big, because after you showed up, then we had somebody who could actually,
and that was horrible.
keep time. Yeah, but you were much better than anybody else.
And I wasn't even a ska drummer. I was a pop rock drummer. That was the funny thing.
Right. And then, I guess there's a significant difference, right? With pop drumming and ska drumming.
Yeah, well, because I wasn't really into ska. I mean, I knew who the Beat were, and the Specials and Madness, but I wasn't really into it. And but they wanted me to play with them for some reason, and I had a good time, So I had to learn ska.
And over the years, Kent really did pick up a lot of the subtle Jamaican drumming techniques.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Was it just a lot of practicing by yourself as well as with
I started practicing a lot by myself. That's when after the band started getting serious, that's when I started really practicing. Because up until then, it was just a hobby, play once in a while.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let you guys get away by not saying the name of the band, how it originated, how it came about. Origin. Okay.
Yeah, who thought of that name?
Dave, do you want to take that?
Oh, gee, you see, as usual. Oh, this is a difficult question. Dave, hey, how you doing? I think that we were, young and looking for a name that was obnoxious and that everybody in San Diego would know. And we didn't actually think that other people, the whole world would know what it was, but apparently they did. So, yes.
But by then,
I'm just
your speculation. You don't even know what a donkey is, right?
Well, we went on tour, and I remember playing in the Midwest and
in Nebraska.
Yeah, somebody approached us and said, "Wow, the Donkey Show! What a cute name!" And I just kind of looked at them like, "You have no idea, do you? You have no idea."
That was one of the things that I originally liked about the name. I mean, so it was like. It was just lewd humor. Like the band was pretty much, we were adolescents, and at the time it was just a bunch of guys in a garage talking shit and being really lewd and laughing their asses off. And this is just one of the sick things that came up. But what I did like about it was that it referenced where we came from. And it sounded fun. If you don't know what, even if you do know what a donkey show is, you can just sort of imagine, oh, it's a show. They're going to be animals. How fun is that? No, it sounds like a party.
Right.
But
hey, A plus for yeah, coming up with that name. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna take a B plus on that, because in retrospect, it really is sort of some people read it as downright racist. And we certainly didn't think of it that way at the time, but it is kind of perpetuating this myth that involves a lot of like othering, like projecting white college kids' sick fantasies onto another nation, which is not very cool.
Somebody took it that far.
Well, some people have. I mean, people I know have thought that it's a very racist name, and then a bunch of white people shouldn't be in a band called Donkey Show, right?
Looking at me.
Wait, whoa! You forgot.
We did.
I know.
So I didn't think it was really racist.
Yeah, Rob has to comment on this. He's the only Hispanic in the band.
Give us credit.
Racist-driven, egocentric band. He was all in good fun.
Yeah,
In good fun.
And I kind of didn't like white people saying, well, the Donkey Shows are racist. I said, you don't know what's behind it. When Dave and I were kicking around names, it didn't come up that way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
It was all in good
Well,
fun.
I mean, it was, it's in that tradition of punk names from the 80s.
Sure.
If you think about,
Great point.
And a
bands.
name that people would remember.
Yeah. So they're usually trying to find something that's
Shock value.
rude or would raise an eyebrow or something,
Mhm.
But yeah, so it's like, and the weird thing with the name is once you have it, you're kind of stuck with it, for better or for worse.
Detrimental to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
So around 86, that was seemed to be a pretty important year for ska in Southern California, because not only did Donkey Show start 86, 87 start getting more active and start doing shows, but it was around the same time where you had No Doubt, Let's Go Bowling, the Skeletones all starting around that same time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all feel it's
We should include Big Mountain
there we go, and then more on the reggae side, even Big Mountain around that time.
from San Diego.
Do you feel that there is it coincidental? Was there something in Southern California water? Was it a result of other factors that contributed to around that same time so many bands starting? What do you think?
Something in the water, as close as you could get, I think.
I think it was just a coincidence.
And I think maybe it is. So there's something about Southern California that it seemed to me like especially drawn to like subcultures.
Yeah.
And also like it's great weather for scootering. So the scootering scene has always been really big down there. And that just ties in with the modern rude boy subculture. And I think it just probably it seems like sort of like a wave effect. Like you had the two-tone and the Untouchables and stuff like that, and then there's a bit of a lull, and then there's a backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a bunch of the early 80s bands like the Untouchables, they went off into, to playing other kinds of music and stuff. And I guess there was a gap, a void of ska, but at the same time, there was a couple venues like Fender's Ballroom, the Country Club in Reseda, the Country Club in Reseda, and so you also had promoters coming together and sort of places to play and little shows and festivals, and it just, I think it's probably not coincidence. It's some sort of larger social energy happening that I don't think it's coincidence that they all came out at the same time.
Yeah,
but maybe it is. I don't know. I tend to think not, though.
I think like Dave is right on the money with, there was these other bands that came first or before us, and then there was that lull. There was a little bit of a gap there, but I think we were all kind of at that same age too, right? Where we're starting to explore and discover new music, and as we're coming of age to go out and enjoy music, maybe to start playing it, it just wasn't that much around. So I think we're all kind of in that same boat. You know, we're all
Feel that
figuring
gap,
it out and
that
Right.
void.
inspired at the same time.
Yes.
1989, very historical year. I think you guys supported Fishbone and the Truth and Soul tour, 1989. Can you tell us about that year? Take us back. Let's walk back.
I think we just did one show. If I
Yeah, it was
remember
just one
correctly.
show, I think.
Oh, it was on. Oh, okay.
Not the whole tour. No,
Is it
no.
so-
We did our first tour. We did was on our own. In
What year?
1988.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the summer of '88, we did a national tour. You know, hey, there you
Oh,
go.
wow.
Oh wow.
Man, T-shirt doesn't lie.
Wait, okay, so talk about how many dates roughly on that tour?
88.
Anybody remember?
I would say what, at least probably 18 gigs.
No, I think it was fewer than that. We had a lot of days off. You know,
Yeah.
we weren't. We
And
weren't.
let's put it this way, like,
guys,
the-
where's some of the places?
After we left, the first gig was in St. Louis. So we had to drive all the way to St.
That
Louis.
was a long drive.
Yeah, from San Diego. We left the belly up.
Yeah.
Right.
Planned that tour.
We left the belly up. We got in the van, we drove, and then we went to St. Louis. And then the next gig after St. Louis might have been the East Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
very poorly planned out tour.
we were, I was,
Try getting ska gigs in like the Southwest or Middle America in 1988. It's not.
Oh,
Yeah, there was-
you had booking agent, or you guys just did it on your own?
no, that one first one was booked by Bronco.
Bronco did.
Our trombone player.
Trombone player booked it, and yeah, he had just found people's numbers. You had to track them down. Sometimes you would get people's addresses on the back of a record.
Mhm.
Bim Skull, Bim, we might have even sent them a letter. You know, like if you wanted to reach people back then, you had to actually send them like mail.
True.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm in a band. We're trying to get a show. It was really a slow, complicated process. So if you didn't, I have no idea how Bronco found out about Cicero's basement in St. Louis, and we ended up there. And that was
So on that
Yeah.
tour, was some support slots, some solo. Was it a combination?
Yeah.
yeah, we were mostly headlining, but we also played. Well, I guess it was a fair amount of support too, huh? Because we played with Bim Skull, Bim.
Before we met Bim.
Yeah, and we played with the Toasters and Bim in CBGBs.
That's
Oh
right.
no.
And we met Filet of Funk in
Yeah, Filet of
St.
Funk.
Louis, and Rude Guest in Chicago. Yeah. So there was, it was like ska at the point was like little oases of ska here and there.
Right.
And then there was 500 miles of people who've never heard of it and have no idea. And then you come to the next oasis. That was what those tours were like.
Well, that was the kind of the cool part, though, right? Because we're playing this type of music that a lot of people at that time wasn't on their radar. They'd never heard of it, and so it was kind of a, that opportunity to be part of, I guess, history in a sense, where you bring in this type of music to lots of different folks who, from lots of different walks of life, lots of different genres or whatever, who found that they clung to that. I think that they were inspired in a lot of ways too. I mean, I could only imagine, if I was living in one of those small towns and having a band like that come through, it'd be inspirational. I'd probably want to start a band too.
And how did people respond in the club? Did they dance?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Cicero. Yeah, I think it was our eyes opened up when we hit St. Louis, because I think there was probably about 10 people. It was pretty full, if I remember correctly, but it was like 10 people there who knew what ska was. There was like one guy with a Desmond Decker jacket.
We played
the
a
rest
bunch of encores too, right? And I think we played.
Yeah, we played, and then they kept asking for. I think we did 3 encores or something like that. It was crazy. And so we sort of like the light bulb went off. It's like, oh, if you play the music for people, just anybody, there's some intrinsic, they'll enjoy it.
And
So
I think
we
that was a
we
big
we
difference too, right? From California was it's very sort of scene centric to getting out into
Yeah.
other parts of the country where it's like, oh, there's not necessarily a ska scene, mod scene, roots,
Right.
whatever. It was just
Mhm.
all different types of people getting into ska.
Did it leave you guys thinking that you're pioneers? We first California band to perform in some of these places.
Maybe not.
I don't know if we were the first. I mean, we played
Yeah.
we might have been the first California ska band to play Youngstown, Ohio, but I don't know.
All right.
Penguin
But yeah,
Pub.
that was
What was the place?
Yeah, that was-
Kansas or something? Where we
Yeah,
remember where we did 2 sets? Was it Kansas or Arkansas? I can't remember.
I think it was Kansas.
Yeah, but like the first set was kind of quiet, but the second set, people who had some drinks in them, and they just went wild.
Yeah, nice.
That's expected, right? Especially the high energy.
Oh no, it was Dallas. It was Dallas.
Mm.
I think it was
we had-
Dallas.
Yeah, we played a lot of places where they weren't necessarily expecting us, but it was fun, and it's I think we were young and we had a lot of energy then too. So it's like
Yeah.
Speaking of energy, talk about how you linked with Buster Blood Vessels. So some of you played right with
mhm.
Buster. Well, what year? And talk about that experience.
It was after the first tour. Once again, it might have been Bronco who hooked it up. I don't know.
Wasn't it Skate and
Maybe Skate.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody wrote Buster a letter.
Maybe.
They're like the
we were.
Yeah,
we were
so I
staying
think it was
at
88
mom's
because-
house in DC, right? I think we were staying at your mom's condo or apartment or something. And I remember getting the word that Buster Blood Vessel wanted us to be supporting
Wow.
backup band.
Right place at the right time.
Whoa. Yeah, it was crazy.
So that was right after the 88 tour.
I think it was pretty shortly after because I know that so we did it like basically we did a West Coast tour with Buster as Buster's All Stars. He brought his own bass player, which was Nick Welsh, aka what's he call himself? King Hammond?
Yeah.
Right. And this guy called Andy on drums. So it's just the three of them came over, and then we provided the horns, keys, guitar, and I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. And we did California with him, and then and also Tijuana. I don't know if I want to talk about Tijuana. And then I know like pretty soon after that he came back and did a tour. He did a tour where they just needed a keyboardist, and they used the guy from Bim Scala Bim on the East Coast, and I got to do the West Coast.
Okay.
And that's when you shaved your head, right, Matt?
That's when, yeah. So they were all doing this bit where their opening track was "Don't Knock the Bald Head," and so they all shaved their heads clean, not like not like number one skinhead style, but just clean, tiny. And so like I was into the spirit. I wanted to join in the band, so I got my head shaved at the first gig. I just had somebody do it. I don't remember, and it's probably my girlfriend shaved it for me. And then I went to ask Doug if I was getting paid for this. He's like, "Well, I'm sorry you've shaved your head, Matt. No money." And also my sister's wedding was just a couple weeks later, so I looked really stupid. My bald head in like a gray groomsman's tux or something.
How many dates did you do with Buster there?
What, just me with them in California? I think it was just like 3 or 4. I think we did play.
We did.
I think Donkey Show also was on those same gigs. So
you don't remember, do you?
No. What?
No, because it was like we did it. Like this is the second U.S. tour. With 89, we were in Wetlands. And it was the Slackers, Bad Manners, and Laurel Aiken.
Oh,
not the Slackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were opening for them, and that remember we were tooling around New York in the bus, and it was just like chaos. And then Laurel Aiken left the tour, and then Bad Manners continued Like we finished our tour on the bus, and then we met Bad Manners in California for the week.
I
After
think
that.
I think Bronco took the bus out with Laurel Aiken and scared him so bad that he dropped off the tour.
Oh no. Who was
Yeah.
backing Laurel back then?
Who was what?
Who was Laurel Aiken's backing band? You remember?
Bad Manners.
Oh,
Bad
wow.
Manners.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. That's wild.
So I've been talk about Bad Manners. How about world famous Catalites, horns playing?
Yeah.
Roland.
Well, we
the eminent.
yeah, Roland Alphonso. We got to that was
Talk about that connection. How it came about.
Was it Gerald?
Gerald. Yeah.
Yeah, Gerald
Yep.
from G-Spot Productions hooked us up for that.
Okay.
Anybody else remember how that happened? I don't
No,
I-
he hooked it up and he wanted Roland to record something, and he paid for us to do that session where we did the 2 tunes with him.
Mhm.
Any touring?
Yeah, we recorded 2 songs with Roland.
And what became of those 2 songs?
Which songs were
Uh,
they?
We made a rough mix of one called Selling Toes. And you can find that on our CD. And then we also did Feeling Nice. No, not
No,
Feeling
Fade Away.
Fade Away. And that just never got mixed. And Gerald never finished paying off the recording studio, and the tapes got taped over.
Is this the Fade Away, the old
Junior
school tune?
Biles?
Junior Biles?
I don't know.
No.
No, it was original tune. It was like a ska tune.
Okay. Got it.
So did you guys do any tour with Roland, or just the record?
No, we played a show at the country club in Reseda.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What-
just one with Roland. What was it like?
Yes, sir.
Take it down, take it down. We're just kids, so we're playing way too fast for him. And looking back now, I probably would have said the same thing too. But he was super sweet. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Just very mellow, low key, and he would be. You could see him kind of as soon as we did take it down to a tempo that he was happy with. Like he would. You could see
Yeah.
joy.
I most remember just him being really happy and just being really positive and encouraging me, and talking to me about saxophone stuff, and it was just really sweet.
And he had this great, I don't know, this way of expressing himself that was like, hey,
Yeah, that's right.
and like, I asked him once, like, who's your favorite sax player? And he just stares at me like in so almost disbelief that I even have to ask him. He's like, Coltrane, man.
Right.
He was a really like lively, pleasant person to be around. And apparently he had recently had a stroke, and was recovering his sort of or had lost a lot of ability on one side of his body, so he's kind of playing one-handed.
And what year was that again? For the record.
89, was
89 or 90, something like that. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Because Junior, you saw Roland in New York.
Yeah, he used to live there. We both live in New York, so I used to see him regularly. I used to run a record store, so he'd come by.
Yeah, he told us he thought his neighbor in Jamaica had poisoned him or something, and that's what caused his stroke.
Wow.
That's the
Yeah,
story.
because he was very, very young when he got stroke.
Yeah.
Nobody got stroke at that age.
Yeah.
What a sweet man.
So some people call it obia. He said poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a very significant and important festival you all took place as one of the key performers at, and that's the International Ska Festival up in Berkeley in 1990. You all shared the bill: International Beat, Bad Manners, Uptones, Dancehall Crashers, Let's Go Bowling, Skeletones, Gangster Fun, Liquidators, and I'm sure I'm missing a few. Talk about how that came. Oh,
Skank and Pickle, were they on that one?
uh,
I think they were.
maybe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Talk
Doug
about
loved that name, by the way. He thought that was the best band name ever. Fatty, he would be like, Skanking Pickle.
Talk about how that gig came about and what you all remember from that one, because it's obviously pretty significant, pretty massive.
Okay, I love to talk about this one actually.
Please.
So this was after Ray Campbell, our frontman, of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fame, had left the band, and we were trying something new with Jackie Starr from Bim Scala Bim, along with Kim as sort of co-front female singers. And but we got this gig, we got this offer from the promoter. I think it's the same promoter from 924 Gilman, right? And he really wanted to have the old Donkey Show back together for this gig. He also reunited Dave and Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger for this. So, he apparently had a knack for reuniting bands. And so he actually flew Ray Campbell, our frontman, up separately from us. We get up there to this huge festival. We're enjoying Berkeley. We're getting ready for the gig. And Ray is still has just landed at the airport. He's a long way from the Greek. And then they start telling us, well, you have to go on next. And it's like, I think it was even a change of schedule. Like, we were supposed to go on later and they pushed us on sooner. And they were saying, I think Creedy, you said, they were saying you got to play now or you don't play at all.
Yeah, do it now or you don't get to play.
So we go on there. We're stalling a little bit, much as we can. We get out there, and what we had worked out for the intro was also Sprach Zarathustra, the 2001 theme, right? So we're playing that. It's like nice and slow, like dun dun dun. Da-da, bum, 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 bum. And, we're just doing kind of a natural part of it, right? So it's like, da, 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 da. And then right at the crescendo of it, Ray comes running out onto the stage and we burst into Bali Island and the crowd goes wild. And there was 9,000 people out there. It's the biggest audience.
8,000, somewhere in between there. Yeah, that's what I heard.
What timing, huh?
Yeah, it was incredible timing. It was a thrilling moment for me. I really enjoyed that.
That was our last gig.
What was that? So was there a lot of conflict in the band?
Later there was. We were starting to have problems.
I think it's only natural for, you've got a group of people at that age, right? And it's, again, like going back to the whole discovery of music and kind of finding your way. I think we're all kind of branching out a little bit, having other interests. I think, and then it also kind of became a little bit of a conflict between personalities too.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
But going into that festival, did you all know it was going to be your last, or just so happened to be?
No, I don't think we knew it was going to be our last. It just worked out that after that, people started pulling out, quitting, and we just kind of dropped it.
Right.
And we had a meeting, I think, over at Creedy's house afterwards, and talked about the band, and half the band pretty much decided they wanted to just leave. So we decided just to call quits.
Even after performing in front of state.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought we better quit now before it gets worse.
Wow. Right. Kent, what else do you remember about that festival?
It was a big show. I remember it was. I was really impressed the way they did the bands with they had the drums on drum riser. I mean, they had the drums under these drum risers with wheels, and they would switch them so quickly. I was so impressed with the timing. They would get them done, and it's just the whole show is just like it went by so fast. It was just over before I knew it.
Yeah.
And because how long did we play for? Like half hour.
Probably that. Yeah, it's one of these. It was in the middle of the day.
Yeah. It was a fun show, though.
Well, it had to be. I mean, all those big names.
Right.
And 8,000 people.
Yeah.
Rob, anything that you want to add there?
Kent, does Rob want to add anything?
My phone's dying. Yeah, I'm quite. You want to add to that festival gig, our last gig?
I watched it from afar. I was gone.
What do you mean gone?
Oh, so Rob was not in the band then?
I don't remember that.
You already left then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that.
Hmm.
Yeah, see, people are quitting, so I was just.
Yeah, right.
Dave, what about you?
I also wasn't in the band at the time, so
You had
it was,
already left you. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, got
Are
it.
you serious, Dave?
yeah,
Yeah, he was gone by
You
then.
didn't do that gig?
No.
yeah. It was just Bronco, no me.
Just Bronco.
And
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is,
What
like,
else?
we were one thing I was noticing, like, you know, just I stuck my head on that Facebook Messenger thing and just saw the chaos, and I couldn't. I was like, oh man, I better get over the Zoom because it's like we were just this big, crazy, loud, dysfunctional family, and it's like, you know, it's like a big family. Wherever we would go, was people asking questions, and it's just confusing, and you know, it's really like a. You know, I don't think we were ever quiet anywhere when we were out. You know, it was like we were just making a scene, and yeah, man, it was
Youngsters without any
it was a lot
long-term
of fun.
vision.
Techno too.
With like nine people, you know, in the band, it's like communication between everybody, and of course they're like, Dave, you didn't get on the van, you weren't on the show. That's kind of typical. There's like 9 of us, maybe somebody wasn't there some days and you just didn't notice.
Right.
If as long as Kent was there to click it off, and you know, we were okay.
Timekeeper.
Yeah.
it is really hard to like
I
to
gotta
organize things. Oh wait,
I've never had so much fun being around people that love ska music so much to put it out there for everyone. I kind of miss that.
it was fun. All the craziness was fun too, but you know, it gets really tiring.
Too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember Creedy and I walking by Jeffrey Dahmer's house at the Hershey factory.
What? Now that I don't remember.
That house right there in front of the Hershey factory. That was Jeffrey Dahmer's house.
Wow.
But there was no
Yeah.
serious animosity or hostility in the band, right? Among the group.
What do you mean?
No serious hostility or animosity.
I mean, I think we all realized that we were at different places, like music wise, like our musical tastes started diverging.
Right.
And so that was, I think, the main thing. We all wanted to do different stuff.
And that is typical and happens in bands.
Yeah, definitely.
So one
And
of
you know, it's
go ahead.
There were some personality conflicts and disputes, but you know, so you get 9 people in a room, it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
Sometimes 2 people around is going to happen.
It's true.
But maybe we can switch direction now. Your album, Bali Island, came up back in 1989, a landmark. People are still talking about it. Can you, and it's really a praiseworthy album. Bring us up to speed. The
Yeah,
arrangement, the recording, how it was all done.
Haphazardly.
Yeah.
Eh?
That's putting it mildly. Yeah.
Well, you know, we didn't know a lot of things.
Maybe you should tell people that. 'cause
It's not like you get taught this stuff, and so we just, I think the first studios, man, we used one studio. Man, I was trying to remember. All I remember is about that studio is me and Matt. Matt was showing me the saxophone part for Feeling Nice, and we were walking around. He was playing it on like melodica or something, and I was playing with him, and it was like for me to come with the ba at the right spots. And so Matt taught me that, and then, but we didn't know things, you know. We didn't have like, oh, we should get a room sound, or we should get, you know, about recording, like the different. So we were sort of in the hands of these jaded 1980s engineer guys, and they didn't know. Yeah, but there's like rock engineers, and like, you know, if it wasn't heavy metal, they really didn't care what we were playing, you know. And so we did everything, like they would tell us stuff, but they really didn't know a lot of things or have any idea of what we were, you know. And we didn't record that much either. That's one of our big mistakes. If we had spent more time recording, or even if we had a proper 6-track or 8-track in one of our garages, and we did that every weekend when we recorded our rehearsals.
Right.
You know, we probably could have made a lot better stuff if we but it just didn't occur to us, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that we had that live recording from Gilman Street that turned out.
Yeah,
some good,
that was cool.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was live. It was the songs had time to kind of develop at that point too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those songs I think hold up for sure.
So the
Yeah,
song,
the Gilman Street is probably one of the better things. That was it was right when Gilman Street was starting too. It was pretty a new place at the time.
yeah.
So
So just to explain about the recording, so this is separate from the album or from the EP. It's really an EP. Sorry?
Yeah.
Include the songwriting.
Oh yeah. So, but hold on, I just want to say about Gilman was that that same promoter, the guy who put on the Ska Festival, he also like hired a recording truck to park outside the club and got us all mic'd up and made a great live recording of, I think, all the bands that played that night. I don't remember who played. And you know, usually like I just play like a Farfisa transistor organ, but at Gilman, you know, they had a Hammond, so that was really nice for me, and that gave us a different sound. And yeah, so that produced a really good recording. And again, you can get some of that on the CD.
Wonderful. And was the
The songwriting was funny to me. Like the way the songwriting would usually work was Tom Zambrano would come in with the bass line. It was usually my job to kind of harmonize it, figure out what chords to play along with it. And then the horn lines would make up their own bits, and the vocalists would make up their own bits. And, you know, Creedy would play the chords. And, you know, so it was always sort of organically building up from the bass, usually. Sometimes I would like write a whole song and bring it to the band and it would fail miserably. But and sometimes other people wrote things too, but you know, that was how it usually did. It was very collaborative.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think Tom was the sort of spark on a lot of the songwriting. He was definitely really important for that,
especially the later stuff, I think.
Yeah, later stuff, and also I think Ray was probably the primary lyricist, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think we all contributed a little bit here and there.
So the songs on Bali Island, they were recorded over the course of how long a period of time?
Year and a half, 2 years, because we had that cassette. Remember the demo cassette for like at least a year or two before that the kit got on vinyl. So
right.
Yeah, and so it was a 6-song EP, and 3 of those songs we had already recorded on our self-produced.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Mr. Brown.
There's the band.
Yeah, I love that.
And a church in Whittier for Mr. Brown, and this had Mr. Brown, Jump to Dance, and Insomnia on it.
Oh, that's right.
And Mr. Brown wasn't influenced by Bob Marley's song. Mr. Brown, he did for Lee Perry. I was listening. I said I didn't see any relationship.
No, not musically. I know which song you're talking about.
Yeah, man, powerful,
Glenn
heavy,
Adams wrote that one.
Yeah, landmark content by Bob and Will.
Yeah. But it's like no, it was, you know, Ray's family was from Guyana, and his I think his uncle was like a chatter DJ, and so Ray was really into like the reggae and the chatting thing, and he was really into Ranking Roger from the ska stuff, and it was just he sort of picked that stuff up. So he would use like the patois influence and stuff like that. Was I think, you know, it's sort of inspired by like some of those Prince Buster songs, or you know, where it's conversation happens kind of thing. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of like the Judge Dredd songs, but like Meet My Dad, he's your Judge Dredd, you know.
So Donkey Show's been cited as one of the bands who really helped define the California sound and maybe one of the earlier groups in the third wave sound as well. Your live show was a spectacle. You were also diverse, right? Having Kim as a female singer, Ray as a black male singer. Did that all contribute? Rob as well.
Rob,
Correct.
as a Mexican American.
Right.
Mm.
Yes, very, very true. So did all that contribute, you think, to you all being so unique and stand apart? Or what all do you think it is that made you all so special? Obviously the musicianship for sure. But was it beyond that?
Well, I don't so I think that like there were a couple of things. One was that we were really, at least, you know, that we were in part pushing back towards the original 60s ska sound, you know, with stuff like Mr. Brown and Feeling Nice. Or not Feeling Nice, that was more like a Rocksteady tribute. I keep mixing it up with Fade Away. So that was something that set us apart. But also a lot of it was just like, you know, the Ray and Kim had a lot of like energy on stage. It was kind of like Louis Prima and Keely Smith, you know, like Prima was crazy and Keely would just try to sing it straight and look composed. I think there was kind of a dynamic like that happening there. And Ray was a great showman. He would just like bounce around and fly all over the stage and dive out into the audience and you know, really worked them. He'd make them, you know, shout the lyrics and stuff. So it was a combination of you know, some aspirational musicianship and just sort of good luck with a lot of energy.
Yeah, I love that example of the Louis Prima and Keely Smith. That's I think that's you've nailed it right there. Yeah.
What other bands helped to popularize the music in San Diego at that time? Ska, I know Bucko Nine, Unsteady, and some other ones. Any other ones?
Gangbusters came around.
Okay.
Gangbusters and Multiple Choice,
Right.
and
Yeah.
digging deep into the archive, Citizen X.
Citizen X.
What time
I
period?
think-
What time period?
And we're talking about the late 80s.
Late
Late
80s.
80s. Specifically, I think even as specific as 1988, 1989, because those were the main years that we were playing gigs. And some point in 1990, we broke up, I think. So
Yeah.
That's how I remember it.
And you think it's safe to say that some of the bands that we just touched on from San Diego influenced by and encouraged to start by you all?
Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, Creedy was in Unsteady.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
Kent.
Shout out to John Roy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
John
Shout out John
pulled us
Roy.
over into Unsteady, probably mid-90s, I think. But yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of that cross-pollination, people moving around to other bands and stuff. I mean, that's pretty natural.
But those bands came after you guys were formed.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it goes without saying that you influenced them. I mean, you can't.
Probably.
I mean, it's undeniable. You trailblazer.
You know, at the time,
let's face it.
we're playing this music, and we're not necessarily thinking about being any sort of pioneer of a genre or anything like that. I think it was just doing what we liked. So it's, you know, in retrospect, it's interesting to look back and go, oh, well, there's a name, there's a term for the genre of ska that we kind of came about or helped to kind of, I guess, start up. And yeah, so I'm sure there's some influence. They're just like, you know, we talked about playing in small towns across the US. I'm sure there was some inspiration there as well, right? For bands
Of course.
on the train.
Yeah.
I know that like I don't know how much influence we had on people, but I remember this one show. I think this was after Ray had left the band, but before the Earth Day Festival, and it was at the Country Club, and for some reason we were like, because we got really used to headlining all these ska shows in LA, you know, we were like kings of the scene for a couple of years, and then suddenly we weren't at the top of the bill anymore. And there were, you know, maybe because we lost Ray or whatever. And then there were these new bands on there like Dance Hall Crashers and the Hepcats and Jump with Joey. And I'm like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
And then they start playing and I'm like, Who the fuck are these people? You know? These guys are good.
I know.
These guys are good.
Yes,
Mhm.
It's Hepcat, no S.
Yeah, I know, but I think wasn't it misprinted on the flyer for that show?
Probably was. That was
That's been
right
somewhere,
before I
yeah.
joined Hepcat too. I think that last flyer.
yeah.
Mhm.
But you know, it's man, it's just like thinking about these times. There's so much stuff. I was playing a couple months ago. I was playing this little jazz gig in Brooklyn, and you know, doing like soul jazz, and I'm sitting there soloing. This guy's up front, and I'm like, oh man, he must be really enjoying it. And I finished the set, and I'm sitting in the bar, and the guy's like, man, okay, that was fine, but you got to tell me about Donkey Show. Donkey Show changed my life. I'm like, he didn't even like. Apparently, he just saw my name on the, you know, on chalk on the door for the band playing, and he was just,
Really cool.
wait a minute, is that the guy from Donkey Show? And it was just like he did not care about anything I had played that night. All he wanted to hear was stories about Donkey Show, what songs you record, what was it like, you know. So it was really a pleasant surprise. So it was, at least for one guy, we influenced one guy in New York for sure.
Here we go.
And there are many others who just say you don't know about them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was a reunion, right? You guys reunited sometime in the 90s.
Or maybe some of you, did,
Not
right?
the entire band, right?
I would say that's a controversial reunion. Yes. Half of us did it, right? So
I wasn't. Were any of Kent? Were you there?
No.
No, you didn't play with like had something to do with the Equators.
Oh yeah, well,
Kim
yeah, I did
did
the
it.
Equators thing back in the late '90s.
Yeah. Okay.
So who was part of that? Anything you want to touch on that?
It was me and Tom, the bass player, and then
And bass.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, drum and bass.
Yes, and Tazy got the gig for us. I'm sure you guys know Tazy.
Yeah.
Of course.
And anyways, I went. It was kind of a last minute deal, and we just started playing for the recordings because they wanted to redo all the old songs, but to make it more modernized. And then Kevin, the organ player from Unsteady, he came in later, and then he started filling in too. And but anyways, it was a fun deal, you know. I think the Bailey brothers from the Equators, they got real tired of Tazy and his brother. What was his brother's name?
Albino Brown.
Albino. Thank you. They got real sick of them. So.
Kent, that was some of your best stuff, man. That was some of your best.
It was all right, you know.
Best drumming.
It wasn't bad, you know.
Right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on a number of what I'm sure would be some career highlights for the Donkey Show, and before we move into some of your post Donkey Show career in life, any highlights specific to Donkey Show that we haven't touched on? Anything you want to share?
Stranger Cole is just the only thing that comes to mind, just opening for him. And also, actually, I barely remember this, but apparently we did open for Screaming Jay Hawkins at the Palomino on a New Year's Eve, I believe it would have been.
That's pretty amazing.
So when did you guys go for Stranger Cole? When and where?
That was a New Year's show. I don't remember if it was 88 or 89. Or even 90. I don't. It was a New Year's show, and we were in a parking garage that they converted into a nightclub in Tijuana.
Yeah.
And Stranger was living out here.
Yeah, man. He was living in our.
Yeah, right. And it was probably one of the worst sounding shows ever, because you really should not turn a parking garage into a concert venue.
Was it a former parking garage?
Yeah, man, it was a former parking garage.
Yeah,
Remember, it was just this concrete structure. It was feedback.
At that time, you guys.
What'd you say?
Supporting. You guys didn't back him. You supported him.
No. He had a band from LA that I think was backing him.
Okay.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. That was crazy. Yeah, that the noise and feedback was epic. I still, yeah, I remember that.
That is wild. Yeah. And then
Oh yeah.
and then the you were talking about Screaming Jay Hawkins. So touch on that, Matt.
I don't remember a damn thing about that.
No, I don't either.
I remember doing a couple shows at the Palomino. And so if this is the one, all I remember about this show really is that we had this big argument in the band about whether we should go on stage doing some kind of a funny walk. And I was very much against it, but I lost. And we did some kind of weird, sort of crippled looking walk as we came out of the dressing room and up to the stage. Other than that, it was another great show, and Screaming Jay Hawkins is a genius.
Yeah. Yeah. How did the audience react, though, in particular to you all?
Can't remember for sure on that one.
Okay.
I think it was just,
Yeah.
I might be mixing up different memories here too. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been doing since the show, the Donkey Show, I guess, retired, broke up, on hiatus? What have you been doing individually?
Creedy, you go first.
There we go.
Well, I mean, after the Donkey Show, again, mid-90s, I think Kent was actually already at Unsteady at that point, and then
Remember, we did Triple A Fantastic.
oh, that's something we don't really want to talk about. I guess we could talk about that. It was a short-lived band with myself, Kent, Tom, and Tazy. And what was the girl's name? That was it Michelle something, Kent?
Yeah, Michelle.
Anyways, it was not ska. It was not ska adjacent. It was
This is a big mixture of
I don't
everything.
really know what to call it.
Okay. Yeah.
But then after that, it was Unsteady. So we get back with our friend John Roy, leading that band. And initially, my first thought was, I'm not sure if I really want to get into another ska band. But I went to see them, and I was actually pretty impressed. Thought they were great musicians, good live show, solid, and then it was like, yeah, okay, let's do this for a while. And we toured the country a few different times. Did that, I think, up until about 98. And the funny thing about that is, as kind of like Dave's story is like you'll travel to different parts of the country and somebody will bring up the Donkey Show. And it's always kind of a cool thing to go, oh yeah, that's right. I was in that band too. Wow. Yeah, but that's been it for me. After that, I kind of just, stopped doing music with bands or playing out. And but I do have a really nice guitar collection.
So has it been difficult for you transitioning from being a musician, playing in front of tens of thousands to, I guess, I don't know what you do now.
No, that's a good question. I think, initially it's a little weird because, you're kind of used to this lifestyle. You're used to, people who, they're paying money to come see you perform. You're kind of in that unique position.
Isn't that the best life? Isn't that the best life on earth?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. But, it's one of those things that for me anyways, I couldn't sustain that. And as much as I love doing it, there was other things that I had to, prioritize in my life, like family and of course putting food on the table and stuff like that. So that's my story.
Well, Rob, what about you? Is Rob still on?
Yeah.
I really didn't play with anybody. I went to culinary school and became a chef.
Nice.
But I was at Cal State San Marcos for a while, maybe a couple of years that I was in the music section. And the instructor asked me, who was your biggest influence that got you into the congas and the timbales and the bongos and everything? And I said, it was Ken from the Donkey Show. He's the one
Nice.
At the time, I didn't understand it too well because I thought, oh, we're just butting heads. But he's the one that made me better. I can't. I want to thank you. Thank you for making me better, man.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very nice. That's great to hear.
But I became a chef, and that was it.
Nice. Yeah, so
Life after Donkey Show.
so Kent, how about you?
Well, part of the same story as Creedy, him and I both went on to Unsteady. And then after Unsteady, I just started joining a lot of different alternative rock bands, like Foo Fighter style music, until I got out of the ska stuff. And I was staying really busy up until 2020. I was still playing a couple bands, at least 2 or 3 bands. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, I retired.
But you were able to pay the bills and put roof over your head?
I was just making extra money because I have a full-time job.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
No, it's just I played on the weekends a lot, or I play a gig during the week, like once or twice. It was just extra money for me.
Nice.
But yeah, 2020 I retired and sold all my stuff. I just didn't have a passion for it anymore.
Yeah. And that definitely happens. Speaking of which, Dave, it's unfortunate that you've stopped playing. I'm kidding. So Dave, talk about what you've done since, obviously Hepcat, Slackers, your own Rocksteady 7, among others. But why don't you touch on some of those highlights through that journey?
Well, I just consider myself lucky that I get to make funny noises out of a piece of metal, and every so often people give me a couple bucks for it. They think it's fun. So after Donkey Show, I did Hepcat, and then I did Slackers, and then I Roxy 7, Stubborn All Stars. I just got really lucky. Every so often, when I thought I was going to give up or something would come along and keep me going. And I've just been really lucky. I get to make I made a lot of music, and Donkey Show was my first real band, though. This is where I cut my teeth, and I learned about touring and just what it takes to get a band together. I think I still do a lot of the same things we used to do. It just hopefully with a little a little more focused. I've had like God, how many years, like 30 or 40 years of practice or whatever it is.
Right.
So all your life you practice one profession, that is music.
But no, I was going to be a urban sociologist. I got a degree from UCLA in sociology, and then I was out east, and I was.
You play music, right?
Yeah, I was always playing music, but it's like I'm
one profession.
Yeah, exactly. But I was going to be a sociologist, and then I got a master's degree in urban sociology from the New School, and right around that time we got a three album deal from the Slackers to do from Epitaph. They offered us a 3-album deal, and so I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm taking a break, and I'm going to do the music thing full time." And she cried and thought I was crazy, and she threw her best guilt trip at me, but I kept on going. And
so San Diego to LA because of UCLA, and that's when you started playing with Hepcat.
Yeah. Well, we were with Donkey Show. We were always half in LA and half in San Diego because both me and Matt were going to UCLA.
Okay.
Bronco was at Whittier College for a lot of time. We rehearsed in Whittier actually. For many years.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
so we always had one foot in LA and one foot in San Diego after like in 1987 or so. We would be sort of, it would vary from time to time how many of us were in one place or the other. So it's like for us to rehearse, we had to make that commitment to, okay, we're going to, all drive
either driving south or driving north, depending on
north here. Yeah, I think we did a lot of rehearsals at Whittier, so like half the band was driving up from San Diego, and even for me and Matt coming out from UCLA, that's still a good hour, every commitment. So
David, how many years were you in Hepcat?
90 to 92.
Okay.
So that's 2.5,
Yeah.
something like that.
And
Like
then,
I left right after we recorded the first album.
right.
So
And then did you relocate to New York because of Slackers?
no, because of school. And I didn't think I thought I was going to be a sociologist.
Right. Oh, gotcha.
I published an article in
Right.
1995. I have an article in the Journal of Contemporary Ethnography.
Wow. I'll have to check.
Yeah.
I could see why you
Yeah,
might
hot reading. You can look that up. Yeah.
I can't promise I'm going to read it, but I'll look at it.
I got a copy somewhere. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. While you're talking, I'm going to ask you about Larry McDonald's, your years of friendship with him, and what has kept
Yeah,
him
man.
so strong.
At age.
Oh man, Larry's just a trip. He's 86 now.
Mhm.
So, and I just played with him at Supernova Ska Fest, and he sounded great. Man, he's killing it, and just somebody who I grew up listening to his records. I grew up listening to him, and I didn't even know it was him half the time. Like he did the
Right.
break on like on Funky Kingston. That conga break is Larry, and now I get to hang out and play with that guy. My brain explodes.
Yeah,
It's like, and then Larry's just a model on how to keep focused and how to keep going and keep doing the music. He's probably having the best years of his career in the last year, because now he's basically the front guy for the Scatolites. So it's like he's played more at age 85 and 86 than he was at like 65 and 66 or 45. It's amazing. So yeah, it's always an inspiration.
When you inherit strong genes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's always a combination of genes and luck, and then
Mhm.
that's the way you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last but absolutely not least, Matt.
Mm.
You went on to do a few projects as well. Why don't you touch on those?
Yeah, so I was really sad after the Donkey Show broke up.
Of course.
I joined this young group of mostly like Chicano musicians playing ska called the Federales.
Right.
Yeah, man.
We
With
had
Dave Fuentes.
a bass player in there called Dave Fuentes. I don't know if
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why I
Big
recognize
respect.
him.
And there was a lot of interesting people in that band. Actually, Rich Moonstomp from Israelites was in there for a little bit. And we had a couple of guitar players who went on to join Hepcat, so it started to feel like sort of a Hepcat feeder band or something. And we never released anything. We did record a couple things, but never released anything, and that was fun, kind of short-lived. I was briefly in like an LA blues band, and then 93 I went out to graduate school at the University of Chicago. And I was this student, so I was a grad student. This kind of short undergrad approached me when I was at my scooter, and he's like, hey, do you want to join my ska band? And kind of like Creedy, I didn't really want to join a ska band, but I agreed to go into the studio and put some keys down with them, and they had acquired this really gorgeous early mid-60s dual manual Farfisa, and so I was kind of hooked after that. So they had the organ, so I stuck with them, and that band was we accomplished a lot. I was really proud of what we did in especially our second album. What was it called now? Before the Revolution. Yeah, we just really hit on a lot of genres in there. We had traditional ska, we had some kind of punk rock, we had some like Latin soul, and a lot of like Stax influenced 60s soul. We did a bunch of stuff. It kind of dragged on. We were talking about all moving to California to try to make it big. but somebody balked on that, and we just kind of broke up. But even after we broke up, we kind of got together in New York to record some stuff. We did a tour of like Europe in at the end of 1999, beginning of 2000. That was with terrible with names, Dr. Ringding, among other groups. Yeah. So, and Ringding was a cool guy to get to know. And yeah, so after grad school, I did move back to LA. And I was just, I was teaching math in a community college in Glendale, and I used to do, I would get together with some of the guys from Hepcat, Scott Abels, Aaron Owens, Dave Fuentes again, and also Boom Boom. Names escape me sometimes.
Brian.
Brian Dixon, yeah. Yeah, Brian Dixon. And sometimes other people would come in, like Lino from Hepcat would also come in. And we would just jam in Scott's garage, and it was just a super laid back vibe, with playing at a very quiet level with really skilled musicians. It was real pleasure. And we played we played ska. Well, we didn't really play ska. We played rocksteady reggae and like sort of meter style funk. And you can find some of that stuff on YouTube if you look for the
And is that the Phoenicians?
The Phoenicians, yeah, the Phoenicians. Yeah, so then after that, I went out to London to teach philosophy. And the only music I really did there, aside from a little DJing, was I actually kind of helped to catalyze a London School of Economics, Department of Philosophy rock and roll band. And it was called The Critique of Pure Rhythm. And it was all mostly professors or instructors on the faculty in the philosophy department, just playing good 50s and 60s rock and roll hits. So that was a lot of fun. And then since then, I haven't, I'm living in Tacoma now. I'm kind of looking to get into some kind of a band. I don't know. But I'm actually super busy because I'm teaching physics at the community college here, and physics and computer science. And I've also just decided to go back and get a master's in physics from UW. So I'm going to be too busy to play in a band, I think.
You are busy. I know from talking with Roger Rivas, you were a big influence on him.
Roger, of course I left out the Agrolites. I always forget about that. So after the Phoenician stuff, so it was actually, sometimes Brian Dixon would pick me up and take me over to Scott's place, and in conversations in his van, we would talk about. He was always talking about like getting together another skinhead reggae group, kind of like the one he was in before with Mark Kwan.
Rhythm Doctors.
Rhythm Doctors.
Yeah. Yes.
And so at one point I'm like, so when are we going to do this? And he says, as soon as you say you're in. And so I said I was in. And then we formed the Agrolites. And originally it was me on the organ, and Roger would just play piano. And that was great to have like both organ and piano in like a skinhead reggae band. You don't hear that too much.
Right. And Jay Bonner on bass.
So what year was
Bonner?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
01 or so. Yeah. And you said Scott was on drums or Corey?
I think it was Scott at first.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lot of back and forth with the drummers.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scott and Corey were both involved early on.
And we must since we're talking with you right now, Matt, you were sharing some of this. We do want to let fans know it was just announced. We have a special event at the Grammy Museum in downtown Los Angeles on Tuesday, November 7th. Matt, you're going to take part in this. We also have, as part of this panel discussion that Junor Francis here will moderate, we have Greg Narvis of Hepcat, Karina Denicky of Dancehall Crashers, Nina Cole of Cover Ups and Reggae Stylists, and Ska Fitness, Oliver Charles of Ocean 11 and Ben Harper fame, Paul Hampton from the Skeletons, and Scott Klopfenstein from Real Big Fish and Little Man Band. So nice little celebration of the LA Ska, SoCal Ska scene, I should say.
We should also give Eric credit for putting this together. He does most of the work.
It takes the village. So since you have experienced the scenes in various areas, not just here in the U.S., but for that matter around the world, what makes the SoCal scene so unique? If we're talking Scottish, so to speak.
It always keeps regenerating itself. There's always some kids in a garage somewhere getting a band together, and we may not even know who they are yet, but they're going to show up eventually. You know, that's the amazing part is, unlike other places, like there'll be big gaps between bands, or there'll be like a period like New York, like there was a period in the '90s when there was a bunch of bands coming out, and then it kind of nowadays it's a little slow. So it's like amongst the younger bands, you know, it's like LA and Southern California in general, it always regenerates itself more so than other ska scenes. I don't know why.
And
exactly.
And the youngsters, they really sound good when they appear on the scene. They really
say what?
They're good, efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, but it just keeps regenerating itself.
It's magic.
It somehow, it keeps inspiring some 18-year-old kids to be sitting there like, let's form a band and let's do this. We can do this and let's play these tunes, and and they always end up in it just keeps coming. The LA's Orange County city, it just keeps coming. The bands keep coming.
And Dave, because you just played Supernova, do you feel in general that ska is healthy? And because you tour the world as well.
Yes and no. It's always such a it's yes and no. It's somewhere in between.
Right. It's been worse, it's been better.
Yeah, exactly. It's been worse.
I'm interested in your thoughts. The no side.
The what?
The no. You said yes or no. I'm interested.
Yeah. The no side. It's
the downside, so to speak.
There's still, a lot of places they just get depressed, right? And they're like, you come to a town and they're like, oh man, it's so great that you came here, and it's like, yeah, I'm sorry there's not that many people here, but it's like, no one really likes this music, and it's like, wow, you're really selling me on coming to your town. It's like one of the things that was different is that we sort of took our destiny into our own hands. We wanted to hear some new ska, so we made it. That's what Donkey Show did. It's like we wanted to hear some music, so we made it. We were tired of listening to other people's records, so we made our own thing.
You want to go on? You went on tour.
Yeah, we went out and we did it. So we did it, and I feel like that spirit is not around as much. There are pockets of it, and so that's I think that's like like with some of the Bad Time Records guys, they have a lot of energy right now.
Agreed. Right.
But there's always the scenes are good, and there's a community of musicians. It's just so different now with the internet. It's like Donkey Show pre-internet. It's just a different world. There was no social media. Like we talk about, it's like, how did you know about these shows? How did you find these things? I think we wrote letters to people, and then we would get a phone number, and then we would call them. It was like physical flyers. Yeah. So it's like
right.
It was like months of preparation.
Yes.
And you can't just like shoot an email to somebody or get on some, but there wasn't even websites to go to, so it was like just really a different world now.
Getting the information out a lot easier, but it's more difficult than ever to A, break through the clutter, and B, convince a person to get off their couch, to get off watching TV, social media, or to get away from the family, to get out. It's
sure, we're competing with Netflix and whatever year-round sports ball and all the other stuff that goes on.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
And for a lot of people, the economy is struggling. You know, and then yes, we're talking about this. We saw Tokyo Ska Parade this past Monday. I don't know if you guys, I'm quite sure most of you have heard of them or at least seen them. You know,
Yeah, I know them.
but yeah, a lot of people can't afford it. You know, gas, cost of gas.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the
Doesn't hit the
ticketing fees
concerts.
too
Huh?
are out of control. Ticketing fees are out of control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Right.
What a combination, sir.
And then
High cost of gas on ticketing fee.
right, and then if a person has a family and you need to hire a sitter, right? If you want to go out and see a show, yeah, it does all add up. So as we're nearing our destination, if you had to, this might be tricky, but if you had to in 1 or 2 words say what you either remember most or the way that you would describe your experience with the Donkey Show, what would that be? Take it away. What was that?
Glory.
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 Love it.
Yeah, I just, fun.
Yeah,
Joy.
fun. That's all I was gonna say. Fun.
That was
Yeah.
so much fun, man. So much fun.
So
Yes.
much fun. There you go.
Dreams about that.
Yes.
Did everyone
Creedy, did you get one in?
No, I don't think Creedy said anything. He looks
sorry,
very
guys, I
pensive.
agree.
You used to be
I was
in
saying,
the
yeah,
unconsciousness.
it was fun. It was like chaotic fun. It was just
all right? That's
big,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exciting, different every day.
Mhm. Well, there's no female, so I can say, gentlemen, any closing thoughts?
No.
Thank you so much for having us on here.
Yeah, just having.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
It's
But
nice
before
to
we put
see
the
you guys.
stopper on, was it the chances of you guys reuniting for one more show? Are you
It
laughing?
doesn't look like it. It doesn't look
Yeah.
like it. We had a discussion about this recently, and
Oh.
there were a couple of holdouts, and we just don't want to do it without the whole band.
Oh.
Yeah,
There seems to be an annual sort of, there's inquiries that come from outside, and that's usually, well, let's ask, throw it out there. Somebody else throws it out there, and I think there's maybe a core of us who would really like to try to do something, and maybe the rest of us just can't do it for whatever reason. And it's-
Yeah. I
Totally
thought
get
I'd
it.
be remiss not to ask about, a
Yeah.
chance for a reunion.
Junior, if you add a couple zeros to the
Yeah, economic. I tell you, man. Yeah, my gosh.
But no, we truly appreciate you all taking the time, and this has been special, and I'm convinced that the fans will enjoy hearing what you all have been up to and about the band, and definitely appreciate this. And Matt, looking forward to meeting you in person in a month and a half or so. Dave, we'll see you out and about as always. And
Will we?
always.
Of course.
Maybe
I'm
at least
joking.
once a year.
Just
But
being
no,
sarcastic.
it's been wonderful meeting the rest of you guys too, and again, thank you for all that you've contributed to the music and the scene. Donkey Show definitely has a special place in a lot of fans' hearts and memories. So big respect and love to y'all.
And congratulations, man, for being, the forerunners.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
They spread Jamaican music to unknown places in the early 80s.
Yeah, man.
Way
Yeah,
before
man.
Scatterlights and some of these other bands had the
Indeed.
opportunity.
Indeed. So on that note, we definitely want to thank everyone for your ongoing support. Please subscribe to this podcast series and our YouTube channel. Follow at History of LA Ska on Instagram, and join our Facebook group. Please follow this gentleman at Junor Francis.
And I'm proud to say that this series is produced by Rockery Radio at Rockery_radio. And of course, Eric, big respect and thanks for your hard work, devotion, and dedication. Much love and respect. Thank you, Sean.
Yes, the Donkey Show. Long live. Big respect and love. Thank you.
All right.
And keep working at getting the band united.
All right.
All right. Take
Thanks,
care,
guys.
Have a good
Take
night.
care, man.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.